Most people overpay for their cruise shore excursions without even realizing it. In fact, on my last cruise, I met another passenger who did the same snorkeling excursion that I did in Cozumel in the exact same spot. And he paid $120 per person while I only paid $60 per person. The only difference, his boat had about 40 people on it, mine had around 10. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 hacks to avoid overpaying for your shore excursions, and one secret that I use every cruise to save over $300. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, bringing you fresh cruise advice, money-saving hacks, and secret strategies the cruise lines don't advertise. Let's get into number 1. I used to book all of my excursions directly with the cruise line. It seemed like the best thing to do until I started realizing that I was overpaying by hundreds of dollars on every cruise doing it this way. When there are so many private providers out there that give you the exact same excursion, sometimes an even better experience in smaller groups, and charge half as much money. If you're like me, you don't like being tricked into spending more money, but I feel that's exactly what the cruise lines do when it comes to their shore excursions, because they hold over your head this promise that you won't miss the ship only if you book excursions directly with them. But I'm here to tell you, you're not likely to miss the ship if you book an excursion anywhere else either. In fact, these other private companies that run shore excursions, that's their entire business, and I've never heard of somebody missing their ship because they booked an independent shore excursion. Usually when people miss their ships or you have pier runners, it's because they were lollygagging at the port of call, maybe having an extra drink at the bar and losing track of time. It's not because their independent shore excursion provider didn't get them back in time. Every cruise I go on now, I book with one of 2 companies, and both of those companies are listed in the description of this video. One is Viator, and they have the rock bottom lowest prices. As you can see here, they also have ratings and they have descriptions that pretty much match what you're going to find on your cruise line website. What I also like about Viator is you can read hundreds of comments from people that actually took these tours, so you can decide which one is best for you. You'll see on Viator a lot of similar tours because there's different independent operators that they work with. So there might be 3 or 4 different providers doing the same kind of snorkel tour or the same kind of city tour, and you can read the reviews and see which one fits you best. Now, the other company I use is Shore Excursions Group. And the reason I use 2 companies is because sometimes you don't find something you want and you have to go and look at another place. Well, Shore Excursions Group has some great options. Their prices are slightly higher in general, but that's because they do offer a back to the ship guarantee. And what their promise is, and you can read it in their description, if they don't get you back to the ship in time, they will not only pay for your hotel and transportation to get to the next port of call to get back on your ship, but they will also compensate you $1,000 for your trouble. In my mind, that means nobody's ever missing the ship with them. If I can do one thing for you, it's to help you let go of that fear of missing the ship that the cruise line instills in all of us in order to make more money. That being said, there is still one situation where I do book shore excursions directly through the cruise line, and that happens when I'm at a tender port. So that's a port where the ship anchors at sea and you have to take tender boats actually to get into port. The port does not have a dock big enough to accommodate the cruise ship. There aren't as many of these anymore, but there still are a few. In Belize, for example, is one of these. The reason I book with the cruise line at tender ports is because it's a convenience factor. Typically at tender ports, cruise line excursions will have a separate boat that picks you up right at your ship. You get onto that boat and your excursion starts right from there. You don't have to waste time or effort tendering to and from the port and then hooking up with an excursion company. So it makes it a lot easier. And then there's something that I learned to do that saves me even more on my excursions. One thing that I really like about cruising and travel in general is the planning ahead of time. For me, that's kind of fun. I like to plan things out, figure out what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go. And when it comes to shore excursions, you can actually save a lot of money doing it this way. I call this the DIY excursion. And here's how I do it. I'll look at my itinerary and find the ports of call where, for example, there's an easy car rental place to access. Not all ports have this. Some you'd have to take a taxi somewhere. It ends up being quite complicated. But certain ports of call, you can rent a car right there at the port. One place I like to do this is in the port of Cozumel. It's rather easy to rent a car there right when you get off the ship. It cost me about $60 for the day. If you add gas and everything else, insurance, maybe $100. But I had 3 people with me, so that's 4 of us doing a car rental, total cost of $100, and we did Cozumel on our own. We drove around the island, went to 3 or 4 different beaches, tried out some snorkeling. It was a great day. I came up with this idea based on an excursion I had done on a previous trip, which I mentioned, a snorkeling excursion, and the snorkeling excursion just took you around part of the island to maybe about 20, 30 feet off the beach. So I could just drive right to that beach, get in the water, and do the same snorkeling. Another port where I really enjoyed doing this was in Ponta Delgada, which is in the Azores. I planned out my excursion, got a car, and drove to a unique spot on the island where old lava flows had created kind of a cove in the ocean, and because of the thermodynamics, the water coming up from the ground was actually warm in the middle of the ocean. Have you done your own DIY excursion? If so, put it in the comments below. Or if you're thinking about planning one and you need a little help, let me know where you're going and what you want to do. I might have some ideas. One thing I always do when I book a shore excursion is when it gets close to that time, I check the weather a day or 2 before. And that's because these providers listed in my description and also cruise lines will refund your money, 100% of it, if you cancel within a certain time period. Usually that time period is 24 hours. And I don't want to be paying a lot of money for an excursion that I'm not going to enjoy. For example, if I'm doing a city tour in a Mediterranean cruise and it's supposed to be pouring rain, I'm canceling that excursion and getting my money back. Or if I'm supposed to do a beach break or some kind of snorkeling tour at an island in the Caribbean and the weather's going to be rough, it's going to be stormy, I'm canceling that excursion because I don't want to be out there like that. I'm going to be miserable and not enjoy it. So I get my money back and use it for something else. And this next hack is a great cost cutter. For a lot of people, cruising is a very social experience. There's a lot of social media out there bringing people together who are going on the same cruise. If you're traveling with other people, or maybe you meet people on board who want to do the same thing at a certain port of call, you can split the costs by renting a private car or a private van. At many ports, you can hire a driver with a van that can take between 6 and 8 people, and they'll charge you between $250 and $400 for a 4-hour time slot. And they'll take you wherever you want to go. They'll have recommendations, but basically they make that tour around what you want to do. You want to go to the beach, they take you to the beach. You want to do snorkeling, they'll take you snorkeling and wait for you. That's your personal driver for 4 hours. And if you have 6 people splitting $300, that's $50 per person. That's a lot cheaper than you'll pay for most other excursions, and you can direct the excursion. You decide what you want to do. And have you ever noticed all of the taxis hanging around at these ports of call? Well, in the past, I've even hired a taxi driver to take me certain places I wanted to go, wait for me, and then bring me back. And I negotiated a price with him to be my driver for 3-4 hours. In my experience, many taxi drivers are happy to do this. And this next hack is the one that saves me hundreds of dollars every time I cruise. But first, I would ask that you subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and you'll get all of our cruising updates. Now, this might sound a bit odd, especially if you're new to cruising. But every cruise I go on, there's at least one port of call where I don't do any excursion at all. Instead, I do one of 3 things. Sometimes I just like to stay on the ship. It gives me a great opportunity to experience all the bells and whistles that the ship has to offer without all the crowds. Plus, if you want to do a spa treatment or something else on board that costs money, a lot of times the biggest discounts on those things will happen when the ship is in port. And honestly, I like cruise ship pools and hot tubs, but I get tired of feeling like I'm fitting into a can of sardines every time I want to get in one. On port days, they're virtually empty. You can have one all to yourself, and that's a great experience, especially at a port that you might have been to many times or one that doesn't have a lot to offer or much that you're interested in. And the second type of port where I will typically not plan an excursion is a port where you can walk off right into the city. This happens a lot in European or Mediterranean cruises because I like to get off the ship and experience the city. You can walk to the historical center, you can see the sights, maybe walk along the waterfront. Whatever interests you, you can do it on foot. You can taste the local food, experience the local culture, and you don't really need to do much more. And the third type of port where no excursion is necessary are these ports with built-up complexes, like they have in Roatan or Costa Maya or the Dominican Republic, and there are a lot others. But they have built up nice pools, lazy rivers, hammocks that you can just lay on right over a man-made waterway. It's a very cool experience, and you can do all this stuff for free. In fact, there's no charge to get in these pools, to get in the river. It's simply there to bring you to the port, and hopefully you shop at their shops and buy their food and drink. Now, at a lot of these ports with these complexes, they'll have bars and restaurants, and they'll have set up chairs and tables on beach areas. And if you sit down at those chairs and tables, they'll expect you to order something, a drink, an appetizer, at least something. But you don't have to order a whole lot. So you can really kind of spend the day there and not spend much money. But hey, if you just want to get off the ship with your swimsuit on and go right into the pool or the lazy river, you can do that for absolutely nothing. So now that you'll be saving big on your shore excursions, a lot of cruisers are overpaying for drinks, food, and all the extras offered on board these cruise ships. I'll tell you how to avoid doing that right here.